Welcome back, everybody. We are doing another edition of Page of Promotions Virtual Book Festival Autumn 2020. We are a production of Indie Reads TV, and we find our home on CNM TV in Troy, Michigan. This is a super exciting episode for me today. I am just beyond ridiculously psyched because we're reaching out internationally. Our author today is, dun dun dun, Luba Lesychyn. Right? Did I get that right? Lesychyn. And she is coming to us all the way from Toronto, Canada. So today marks our international debut for the book festival. So I'm super, super excited. And I'm even more excited that Luba is going to share for us passages from 2 books today. So this is not only an international, but a twofer, and I'm super excited. Because ever since your books came, Luba, I've been staring at them, thinking I want to read them, but they have to go in the prize boxes, so I can't crack the spines. And it's very difficult for me. It's more like telling me not to eat Easter eggs. Chocolate, gotta. Thank you so much for coming tonight, Luba. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for hosting me.
Sure. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got started writing, please?
Yeah, my journey seems to be a little bit different from many of yours, and thanks everybody for coming to listen to me today. I didn't start writing when I was young, other than a grade 4 story that got read out to the class and got lots of laughs, and that was wonderful. But then I didn't do anything with it for a while, and then through university ended up writing. One of those long master's theses about 250 pages, and then just sort of let things drop then. But I came to writing actually through a love of film. I have been participating in the Toronto International Film Festival for more than 30 years. And
oh, very cool.
Yeah, the friend who introduced me to it ended up moving overseas. And so she wanted to live the experience through me vicariously. So I started basically journaling my experience, sending her emails. Then other people started hearing about my emails, because this was before the days of blogs even. That word hadn't even been created yet. So it was an email list that actually became a little bit international as well. And then technology was changing, so I got into blogging, having a website for it. And by the end of each festival, and it was not just I don't consider myself a film critic by any means. I would just share, whether I loved or perhaps didn't like a film as much. But I'd always seen, when you're seeing 5 films a day for 10 days, lots of crazy things can happen to you. And so my journals turned into almost little mini books, and so I was having great fun with that. And then one day I read Sophie Kinsella's Confessions of a Shopaholic, and I hadn't read anything light like that, I think, for a really long time. And I thought, oh, this is kind of light and kind of fun, and I have an addiction too to chocolate. And I had one to shopping as well, but I think my addiction to chocolate was even stronger. And I work in kind of an interesting place. I was working at the Royal Ontario Museum, which is Canada's largest museum. And I thought, I could possibly spin a story out of this. And so I ended up going into a creative writing program and, doing one of those how to write a novel courses as well before I even started that. And then came up with Theft by Chocolate, and have which I published in 2012. And unlike many of you, I have long gaps between my 2 books. And so I've only more recently published the sequel, Theft Between the Rains.
And what year is that one published?
2019.
Awesome. Okay. Well, there are some of us that take a while to publish and others that don't. My romance novel was difficult for me to write, and it took 14 years. So, not to worry.
Yeah, and life is busy. I, work full time and also teach yoga part time, and just had lots of stuff going on. So I would sneak it in when I could.
Yeah, I was raising my son as a single mom. So yeah, you sneak in the writing when you can. I would love it if you could give us a setup of the first book, give us a little synopsis, and then the floor will be yours to do the reading, and I'll let you go in and we'll do this again symphony style. So in between movements, we'll just kind of give you a little bit of time to grab their next book, and then we'll come back in and we'll ask questions and have discussion after. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
Awesome. The floor is yours, madame.
So Theft by Chocolate is about a woman looking for chocolate love and an international art thief in all the wrong places. And our protagonist, Kalina Boyko, is a full-blown chocolate addict, so her addiction kind of keeps getting in her way. And she's been tasked with bringing a blockbuster exhibition, The Treasures of the Maya, to her museum. And she doesn't really have any experience or credentials to do so, but due to some unusual circumstances, it ends up on her shoulders. And she's been doing her best, working her tail off. However, while she's managing the process of bringing this special exhibition to the museum, she starts to think that one of her colleagues, and actually a superior, might be involved in a plot to steal some of the key artifacts from the exhibit, which include the world's oldest piece of chocolate, which is a real actual artifact that a museum has in the States, and also a gold jaguar mask. And so she's moving through coordinating this exhibit, all the time suspicious about what's going on with the exhibit possibly being at risk. And the excerpt I'm going to read is a little bit later in the book, but no, I won't spoil anything for you. I'll end it in a place where, there'll still be plenty of suspense if you make it through reading the book. And so this particular excerpt is happening at the gala opening of the exhibit, the Treasures of the Maya. Kalina is not very happy because the colleague who she's been suspecting of being involved in this potential heist, his name is Richard Pritchard, is getting all the credit for bringing the traveling exhibit to the museum. So she's slipped away from the event and she's gone back to her office to blow off a little bit of steam. There's a couple of characters who are mentioned in this piece just by name. Veronique, who is Richard Pritchard's inept sidekick. And we'll also hear mention Stuart, who is Kalina's boss, and Carson as well, who is the museum's director. And this particular excerpt is based on a real setting in the museum, and extremely accurate because I had pictures to work from in order to describe it, and it's just very unusual. Richard had plunged a knife deep into my belly by failing to give me credit for my work. Furthermore, he had twisted the knife by publicly declaring Veronique the project's savior. Veronique, of all people, she had contributed nothing to the mounting of Treasures of the Maya, and if anything, had been a serious liability. As I sat back in my chair trying to chill, an email from Richard marked urgent was delivered into my inbox. What did he want now? Kalina, please meet me in Prep Lab 1B7 immediately. I'm shutting off my phone, so don't bother replying to this message. I only have a few moments. Richard. Ha. Stuart or Carson must have reprimanded Richard for his minor oversight and insisted he apologized to me. But why did he want to meet in a prep lab? Maybe he had decided to humble himself in privacy. And the prep labs were remote, but not too far from where the gala was taking place. I bolted from the office and passed through the doors on the other side of the gallery. Once I descended the staircase, I realized I'd forgotten to advise security I'd be setting off an alarm or two. Oh well, it was too late. They had probably dispatched a floater to check the area already anyway, so I'd have to apologize later for the breach. Upon arrival at the underground level of the curatorial center, I headed towards the prep labs. There were various rooms dedicated to everything from carpentry and welding to taxidermy. 1B7, where was it? It had to be up ahead. Oh, there it was, 1B7, ornithology prep lab. Why would Richard pick the bird preparation area? But since when did Richard do anything logical? I twisted the knob and the door opened. It was as black as road tar inside. Richard, are you here? There was no response. Great. Not only did he order me to meet in these bizarre surroundings, but he was late. I located a switch on the wall and a single dim light was illuminated. As my eyes adjusted, I noticed a bag suspended above my head. I gazed up and saw a stuffed stork gripping a diaper bag in its beak. Ornithologist humor, I guessed. Beside it hung a vulture. One of Richard's predecessors, I surmised. It was impossible to avoid banging into things in the tight space. The room was jammed with fume hoods, desks, filing cabinets, and boxes. I walked over to a storage unit and pulled out a tray. Ooh, it was filled with countless specimens of small birds. I'd heard the museum was a repository for the 5,000 plus dead birds collected annually by FLAP. The Toronto Animal Rights Group gathered birds that had crashed into skyscrapers illuminated at night, and the museum took most of the sky kill off their hands for research purposes. But I never realized the museum had such an extensive and morbid morgue on site. I shoved the tray back in and noticed more ornithologist humor up ahead. Someone had cut out an image of the Grim Reaper and attached it to a dark blue metal door labeled Members Lounge. Above it, a sign written in calligraphy read, "Abandon all hope, ye who enter here." If that wasn't an invitation to enter, what was? I slid the bolt across, cracked open the door, and stepped inside. A ghastly smell blasted me and I turned to escape. But as I rotated, the door slammed in my face and I heard the faint sound of metal scratching against metal. I reached for the knob, but the door refused to budge. Something scampered across my feet and I let out a blood-curdling scream. "Is anyone out there?" I pounded on the door. Richard, are you there?" Nausea overcame me from the horrible odor that coated my nostrils and seeped into my lungs. I clutched the walls in search of a light switch, but they were clammy from the room's dense humidity. Finally, my fingers made contact with a small plastic lever and my horrific surroundings were illuminated. Beside me rested a large filing cabinet and atop it stood a white cross constructed of cardboard. The letters RIP were emblazoned on the cross and someone had further embellished it with crude drawings of insects. I peered around and felt energy draining from my body as though it were being siphoned off. Down at my feet, boxes held decaying bird carcasses, dead rodents, and severed limbs of mammals. Masses of beetles fed on the rotting flesh while others flitted about looking for their next meal. I was imprisoned in the museum's infamous bug room. I'd heard about the bug room, but until this moment had not known where it was situated. I did know, however, it was inhabited by tens of thousands of carrion-eating insects used to turn animal carcasses into pristine skeletons. The 3 different varieties of bugs could consume a small bird overnight, while larger animals, such as a deer, could take up to a month to be cleaned. I'd also been told that staff never spent more than 5 minutes in the impermeable container, as the bugs would begin to fly when the light was left on too long. The thought of a room filled with airborne, flesh-eating beetles amplified my panic. I struck the light switch, blanketing the room with darkness again. "God damn it, someone help me!" I clobbered the door with my fist, all the while doubting my cries and pounding were audible beyond the room, let alone in the hallway. For a moment, I stopped to swipe my arms and legs. It appeared that if I kept in a state of motion, the bugs avoided me. The lifeless flesh in the boxes was apparently an easier meal ticket. But how long could I keep up the frenetic movement before passing out from the foul reek?
Wow. Okay. I have to inhale for a moment. That's just ew.
Yeah.
Wow.
Ooh.
Okay. I'm just gonna breathe, and I'm gonna let you go into your next reading while I breathe, and then we'll talk about it. Go ahead.
So with Theft Between the Rains, very different inspiration. But by the way, I should mention with Theft by Chocolate, a main plot point is based on a real life cold case theft that took place at the ROM in Toronto in the 1980s. And so that helped flesh out my story. This one was inspired by documentaries and a very different kind of focus. Kalina's chocolate addiction is not quite as out of control, but still lurking. And so I bring back some of the favorite characters from Theft by Chocolate. And in this particular scene, which is probably about a quarter of a way into the book, Kalina and her colleague, Marco, who is a security guard, and he became Kalina's partner in crime solving in the first book, and also Walter, the encyclopedic librarian, are at the museum's offsite storage facility. So a lot of people don't know that big museums such as the ROM or the Royal Ontario Museum or other big urban museums that you'd have in major American cities, what you see in the galleries is only the tip of the iceberg. You know, most of it is in collections on site, but because of the cost of real estate in big urban cities, most of them have an offsite storage facility quite far away from the main building. And there's also some security things that benefit by having those objects away from the main part of the museum as well. So Kalina and Marco, the security guard, they've been alerted to something odd going on at the warehouse. They're not sure what, but they make up an excuse to go on to the site. And Walter, the librarian, has come along with them. He's the one who knows the building quite well. Marco's fairly new to the museum, so Walter is kind of the expert of the layout of the land there. We are coming to yet another fascinating area of the facility, and it is one of the more recent additions to the building, said Walter. Holy, said Marco. This is straight out of some sci-fi B-movie. It is something, said Walter. Before us were shelves full of jars, large jars, small jars, roundish jars, square jars, all containing clear liquid and specimens of every conceivable sort. I turned on my phone's flashlight app, and the illuminated sight before me was truly haunting. Hundreds, probably thousands of fish, sea life, and even land creatures floated lifelessly in their ghostly containers. Those whose bodies were turned in our direction seemed to be staring directly at us with beady eyes. All of these specimens are suspended in alcohol, said Walter. If there was anything you wanted to learn about aquatic creatures, this is certainly the place to do so. Everything is organized by genus and species. They are whole specimens, and they've been stained to feature various elements. As you can see, the fish turn translucent when preserved, but with the dyes, one can make out the nervous or circulatory systems, for example. Cool, said Marco. I seem to recall we had no choice but to move all this off-site, I said. Yes, indeed. Because of their extraordinary weight, they cannot be stored on upper levels without adding costly structural supports. At the same time, if they're stored below grade, there's a heightened risk of explosion. And those things over there, how come they're not made of glass? Asked Marco, pointing to metal canisters evenly distributed throughout the area. Those cylinders contain a special gas that should some alcohol fumes escape and combust, the containers would release a formula that would minimize the damage from a critical incident. I should add that maintaining a steady, cool temperature in this warehouse is just as, if not more important for these collections as the others. Steady temperatures help maintain the integrity of the jar seals by limiting expansion and contraction. It also prevents the proliferation of this kind of thing. Walter tilted a jar about a foot in diameter towards us, displaying mold growing on the lid. This is a problem with which the museum struggled incessantly when these collections were in the main building. That whole combustibility thing, you would think they'd keep the temperature even colder here. Effectively not, Kalina. There is no evidence that sub-flash point temperatures reduce the danger of fire, said Marco. How what? Short version. Cold temperatures don't necessarily reduce the risk of fire or explosion. I raised my phone to snap photo after photo as we sauntered through rows containing jars occupied by squids, snakes, octopi, lizards, small mammals, birds, and even insects. The selection seemed so vast and all-inclusive that I was expecting us to run across shrunken heads and human brains at any moment. After we turned yet another corner, we encountered a most curious construct ahead of us. Built in a corner of the warehouse was an independent structure, a building within a building. Its walls did not reach the ceiling, and it sported a roof. It had the appearance of an oversized vault, and it looked as though it was hermetically sealed. This must be where the paintings are stored, I said. Spot on, Kalina. This is the only part of the storage site that is both locked and alarmed. And you have access, I asked. Walter pulled out a set of keys while smirking like a mad scientist. He lumbered closer to the door and then halted abruptly. What is the meaning of this? I don't understand. Marco and I dashed forward to join the stuttering librarian and saw that the door to the vault had been splattered more obviously with the gray paint that we had noticed earlier on the floor of the warehouse. Walter's gaze dropped to the ground and Marco and I looked at each other. Walter turned 180 degrees and scuttled back in the direction from which we had come, his stare fixated on the ground. When his pace accelerated, I shouted out, "Walter, stop! I must get to the bottom of this. Don't you see? The building has been compromised. We must discover the origins of this trail of paint." "The front door!" exclaimed Marco. "Pardon me? It starts at the front door," I added. "Well, actually outside the door. It begins a ways away and leads to the building." Walter advanced towards us, glaring and beginning to look as though he was about to blow a gasket. "I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. I knew you had some ulterior motive for coming here, but I tried so hard, so very, very hard to give you both the benefit of the doubt." Ta-da.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Something I have to say before we open the room to questions. I find your writing to be incredibly tactile. I am feeling my way through these excerpts as if I could actually reach out and touch the things you're describing, and they feel solid to my imagination. So I really, really want to applaud you for that. I think that's an incredible thing that you're doing with words. So congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Very kind of you to say so.
It's pretty cool. Now I have to read the books.
Yeah.
Thank you for increasing the length of my TBR file. Everybody feel free to turn on your microphones, and Angela, you can go first.
Yes, Luba, I just want to say the same thing as Diana. I loved your descriptions. It just drew me in. I was like, oh, wow, you can, all the senses that they say you're supposed to use. That was great. Awesome. I like that.
Thanks so much. I if we had more time, I always like to read some of my chocolate scenes as well, because I, really like to describe the way chocolate tastes and sometimes feels and sometimes smells.
Next time, when you come back later in the month,
yep,
plan on reading a little snippet of that for us when you come back. I will make sure you have time to do that.
And I think we should all have virtual chocolate or something on standby for that.
Well, we are playing virtual trick or treat this month.
That's right.
So
it's a
watch
good idea.
the Facebook post. I might give you extra candy. You never know. Anybody else have questions or comments for Luba tonight?
I do
Your
like
writing style is just, your voice is so vibrant. Especially the part with the bugs, I literally got the heebie-jeebies.
Me too.
It was just so vibrant, and your writing voice is just an absolute pleasure. So I love it.
Thank you. I was lucky enough to have that kind of setting, having access to that kind of setting. As I said, I had actually taken pictures. One of the jobs, one of the projects I had worked on at one point was helping put together a photographic, a digital photography base for the department that I was working in. So I just took tons of pictures of that room, and little did I know that, a couple of years later I would be
so
into my story.
Kate, I think that answers your question about the most unusual resource material. I think that would be it.
Pretty much. Yep, you win.
Pictures of bugs. You.
Yeah, I don't like creepy crawlies, and I cringed.
I'm sorry.
Oh, that's that. Ugh.
I think we all went, ooh.
Yeah, I'm just thankful you weren't talking about snakes, because that's where I draw the line in the world. I just can't do that. Julianne, go ahead.
I like snakes.
I don't know why. I don't know why.
And actually, I do like bugs, but the flesh eating part, that got to me a little bit.
Anyone else? Questions or comments for Luba today?
I'm looking forward to the chocolate scene next. I'm really looking forward to that. It's going to be kind of like Wonka Vision from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, where it's like you're beaming it into our heads. Today we got the flesh-eating bugs. Next time we're getting chocolate.
So it's given us something
I mean,
to look forward to
that
come
good.
back.
Yep.
Well,
Definitely.
and I have been told by many of my readers that, you know, they weren't very happy by because of the fact that while they were reading the book, they were constantly going out and getting chocolate if they didn't have any on hand, 'cause they just couldn't resist.
Okay, Luba, this is not related to the book, but you look fabulous. I think you were just taunting us
Agreed.
before in the shadows, and then you came out. I was like, look at Luba.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
I cleaned up.
It's kind of a snazzy theater thing you did for us.
Yeah, no, for your readings, I like to just hang out on my couch, and I've got very poor lighting there, and I've tried a few different things, but yeah, for this, I figured I needed a little bit, you know, had to step up the game with the lighting.
I love it.
I also wanted to comment, I love the cover of the first book.
Oh, thank you.
Does everybody see that behind her? Do you see there it is, the Mayan mask made out of chocolate? It's so cool. When you hold the book in your hand and you realize that the mask is made out of chocolate, you just like want to eat it. It's amazing. Whoever your artist was, they did a great job on that cover.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to have my, well, not necessarily lucky, but at that time, it was just at, you know, when the world was just breaking into self-publishing. So having a traditional publisher was, you know, one of the only alternatives you had of getting a book out there. So they came up with a real good supply of different cover options, and all of us just went, bzz, yeah. Yeah.
Hands down, easy. That was a great choice. It was really, really, and like I say, when you hold the book, the cover is, the art is so three-dimensional on it that it just looks fabulous. It came in the mail and I was really impressed. I was like, okay, we have to learn more about this one. So awesome. Does anybody have any other questions or comments for Luba? No? Okay. This concludes the reading portion of our visit with Luba. She's going to come back later in the month. And actually, do you know the date, Luba, off the top of your head?
Halloween. 5 o'clock on
Excellent.
Halloween. I hope some people are in.
So you're going to do a chocolate reading on Halloween. I think this is perfect. It's ideal. I'm sorry I couldn't remember what date you were doing it, but I've got like 168 things going on simultaneously. So I can't remember, and I'm not great with numbers anyway, so I never remember dates and times. But thank you very much. This is going to be a blast. I highly recommend everybody go out and get the book and then come back and we'll have a campfire chat with Luba on Halloween about chocolate and bugs and other wacky things. So when you come back, remember the second interview with our authors are always interactive. So that's when you get to ask more detailed questions and we get to kind of dig into the author's mind a little bit. So Luba, be prepared for that. We're going to have more questions. Okay, awesome. Everybody, thank you so much for coming out tonight. I really appreciate you taking the time. This is Luba, let me see if I can get it, Lesychyn. Did I get it right?
You are awesome. Perfect.
See, I have to look away from your name to be able to pronounce it. But thank you very, very much for being here. We had a blast tonight. It was so much fun. This is Pages Promotions Virtual Book Festival Autumn 2020, a production of Indie Reads TV, and we find our home on CNN TV in Troy, Michigan. Thank you, Luba, for coming. I am so happy we did this. I'm sorry we couldn't get you in earlier in the month.
Oh, no.
Thank you so much, and I look forward to you coming back. Thanks, everybody. Don't forget, we've got another one of these tonight at 7 o'clock and every day this month. Bye-bye.
See you later, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.